Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. We will start the session now. Under the supervision of the lab, the Artificial Intelligence and Data Analytics Lab, the Data Science Club is pleased to host this webinar today. The webinar is delivered by one of our best CCIS students, Sarah Al-Bays. Sarah is an undergraduate student studying software engineering at Prince Sultan University. She has a great interest in artificial intelligence and hopes to explore more of its effect on the way we lead our lives, especially when it comes into creating art and creative expression. And this would be our talk for today. The title of today's webinar is Making Art with AI or Artificial Intelligence. The recording and material for today's session will be sent to you, inshallah, by email. Kindly sign the shared sheet that I will share with you now in the chat section for your attendance certificate. At the last 10 minutes, Sarah Al-Bays will be very happy to answer all of your questions and concerns about the talk. Thank you so much for your attendance today. And now I will give the floor to Sarah. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I'll be sharing my screen now.
Sarah, you can start the session today. Thank you.
Can you see my screen?
Yes, it's clear. You can start.
Okay. Okay, so hello everyone. Thank you all for attending. So today, as Ms. Hunt kindly mentioned, I'll be talking about using AI to create art and to explore computational creativity. I study software engineering. I'm a software engineering junior at PSU. And I also do digital art outside of uni, and I do study to become a data scientist, hopefully. So what we're going to cover today is I'm going to give you a primer, a glossary of terms if you're not familiar with the most common terminology when it comes to this field. And then I'm going to give a background about the intersection of the fields and why is it significant, and also concepts relating to art, an experiment, and the future of AI in art. Glossary of terms. So to begin with, you have to know what an algorithm is. So an algorithm is also always a fancy word to say like a bunch of code. It's just a set of inputs and outputs. So rules that kind of take an input and generate output. That's basically the gist of it. You can use it in a computational sense or outside of that. Artificial intelligence, also a huge buzzword, and it covers the general concept of how machines can act or simulate human intelligence. A model, it's a term that's hard to define, but generally is the product of AI training. So you run a machine learning algorithm on a set of data and you get a model. A neural network. So a neural network is a bunch of functions that take an input and generate output. Similar to an algorithm, it's kind of a way to perform various AI operations. So, and you have to also know what computer vision is. This is kind of the main field used in computational creativity. While we can use text data and other things, but most artists that use AI kind of go into computer vision. So it deals with image data and image data sets. So here are images to kind of better illustrate the terms. So as you can see, the algorithm is input, a bunch of stuff happens, and then an output. So the algorithm is the bunch of stuff that happens. Artificial intelligence, it could look like a supercomputer, like the Watson one. you can see here. And also it can look very simple as an app on your phone. So Pinterest uses AI to help recommend you stuff that you would like based on stuff you already have. A model, there are various types of models and various kind of visualizations of what a model could look like. But here is a simple one, which is a decision tree. So it kind of picks between two things and then until it reaches a result. And here's what a visual of what a neural network looks like. So there's an input layer, a hidden layer, which is a lot of stuff that happens, and then an output layer. So, and here is how computer vision works next to human vision. So with computer vision, it simulates the eye and the brain with a sensing device and interpreting device and generates an output accordingly. So background, when did all of that start? So here's a timeline of just the parts of AI history that kind of relate to art. So if you can see in the beginning of the timeline, it kind of jumps to 2013 because the recording of the intersections wasn't really that good in the beginning, and kind of you would loosely define what art is when it comes to this. So we go from 1973 with Harold Cohen and Aaron, and then he kind of does that for a bunch of years and a bunch of decades moving forward. And the later documentation of the intersection comes with the painting quote. So let's start with Aaron. So Aaron has been developed by Harold Cohen, who is a researcher, a painter and professor at the University of California, San Diego. He did also represent Britain at the Venice Biennale and has been collaborating with this program, Aaron. So Aaron has been able to make pictures autonomously for decades. Even in the late 1980s, Cohen was able to joke that he was the only artist who would have a posthumous exhibition of new works created entirely after his own death. So what Harold Cohen was intending to do with Aaron is to explore how kind of non-human agents can develop art in the way that humans do. So he created another player in this game. So Cohen is very careful not to claim Aaron as creative, but he does ask if what Aaron is making is not art, then what is it exactly? And in what ways, other than its origin, does it differ from the real thing? If it's not thinking, then what is it exactly doing? So as you can see, Aaron developed over the years. So it starts with 1974. It's kind of a more abstract image, and then it gets kind of more accurate as time goes on and adds more color into the paintings and whatnot. So here, I kind of misnamed the slide accidentally, but this is the painting fool, not Google Deep Stream. So the painting fool is a computer program and personified as an aspiring painter. So the aim is for this project is for a non-human agent to be taken seriously as an artist. So these artworks are made using simulation. So it has active art in various exhibits around Europe. And it kind of tries and sketches the human emotions. So depending on the data sets fed into the painting pool. So as you can see, it kind of develops over the years. It started with this, and then more cells, it learned the kind of more abstract or more accurate it gets. So this is an artist called Taryn Southern. She created an entire album using just AI. So all of the harmonies, melodies in the album have been created using AI, and created a music video with a style transferred from a lot of image data sets she fed to an AI algorithm. And here, this is an artwork that has been sold at Christie's. Christie's is a big art auction house in, I believe, Britain. So the painting is done by a group called Obvious. It's a Paris-based collective. And it kind of used GAN, which I'm going to explain later on, to generate a sort of 1920s artwork. And it sold for $432,000 at Christie's. So seeing all of that, why is it important to see how computers affect creativity and if computers can create art in the way humans do? So this is a quote from the AI Artists Organization. It's a global organization with artists from all around the world that use machine learning to develop or explore creativity. So humans have used tools to extend their creative capabilities since the Stone Age. But in the last decade, AI and machine learning has transformed our ability to create more than any time in history. These new technologies not only open new possibilities, but also pose important questions about how we'll interact with technology now and in the future. So technology has been affecting everything around us, from healthcare to education to anything. You can think of any field in the world, and you would see technology's effect on that. So with the years coming, art hasn't been excluded from that conversation. But we haven't highlighted it enough to notice those differences. So we've been thinking of art as just using traditional tools like paints and brushes and anything, but we have failed to notice that art has developed over the years with new tools being introduced. So we have to start including art in that conversation because art has been a way for us to illustrate our own narratives and tell our own stories. So as part of the 2030 vision, art has been listed under the Quality of Life program as a way to not only sustain kind of life in Saudi Riyadh, but also to increase the quality of life of the Saudi inhabitants. So here are concepts in AI art. So they're mainly computer vision concepts, since I'm mainly covering dealing with image data sets. So first are convolutional neural networks. So convolutional neural networks, or CNN, is a neural network based on the human cognitive ability to recognize objects. Basically, it's trying to simulate how you scan objects with your eye. So if you can see here, this is an image of like an outline of a lion. So how this neural network works, it takes a part of the image and then kind of scans the matrix of that image, the filter in the matrix form, and then slowly but surely develops the visual. So it scans it to recognize it, as you would with your eyes. Here's a feature visualization. Feature visualization is a way for us to understand how neural networks see things. So feature visualization is a tool to dig into neural networks and see how they work. It answers questions about a network or parts of a network by generating an example. So here the examples are how that CNN kind of scanned the layers of an image. Neural style transfer, which is most common application of AI in art. You can see it in Snapchat filters as well. So the process of using CNNs to render a content image. So, and this is the result. So this is the content image. This is the style image. The content image is the kind of base layer, and the style image is the overlay. So you take this image and kind of place that image over it using an algorithm, and then it produces this result. You can play with the weights of the images, so you can see how much the style dominates and how much the content image dominates. The weights being the visibility to you as a viewer. Here is the fun part, to me at least. They are generative adversarial networks, or GANs, neural networks that learn to create synthetic data similar to known input data. So how this algorithm works, it's composed of two parts. So one side is a generator, and the other side is a discriminator. You feed the system a data set, and the generator makes a new image based on the set. Then the discriminator tries to spot the difference between human image and one created by a generator. The aim is to fool the discriminator into thinking new images are real-life portraits. So these images are not real images. They're created using this algorithm. So this is a website called This Person Does Not Exist. So you feed the algorithm a bunch of images of people. It turns out to be this kind of sophisticated result because of the quantity of images in the data set. So the more images, the kind of more accurate you would get a result, the more realistic a result can get. So these images have been created using this algorithm. So as I explained before, you input a bunch of images and try to fool the system with a loss to generate synthetic images, or like artificial images, you would say. So an experiment, if you would like to see how the AI art type thing works, you can check this Google experiment. So I have provided a QR code if you want to scan it. But as you can see in this image, this is how this application works. So it crowdsourced a doodle data set. So it has a large doodle data set to kind of play around and guess what are you drawing based on its recognition, using all of the concepts I explained before. So CNNs to recognize the image and then kind of give you its best estimated guess. This is the QR code for the experiment, and you can just write QUICKDRAW Google on Google and you can find it. So the future, what is happening right now and what do we expect now, knowing all of this and including it in the conversation? So we have to ask ourselves the question, and can autonomous machines be creative and truly create art? So here are a few ideas from artists. So this is what kind of the artists I explained before, and what do they say about the fact that autonomous machines can create art in the way us humans do. So it doesn't threaten our creativity in any way, shape, or form. I'll explain these and I'll tell you kind of what I think. If what Aaron's making is not art, then what is it exactly? In what ways, other than its origin, does it differ from the real thing? If it's not thinking, then what is it exactly doing? This is what Harold Cohen, the one that developed Aaron, the one I explained before, is saying about Aaron, his creation. And that kind of goes with all of the other applications of AI and art. You ask yourself, are they thinking the way artists are thinking? Since AI, the whole point of AI is to create tools that simulate human behavior and simulate the way, generally, how humans act and what humans produce at a more efficient manner. Do we exclude them from being able to create art and to contribute to creativity because it's a part of our human production? And would we need agents that efficiently make it? And if so, are they making it in the way that we are making it? Do we need them in that space? And if they take place in that space, what are they exactly? So those are the questions that Harold Cohen is asking. Also, there's another artist by the name of Marcus du Sautoy, and he's mainly a British mathematician, but has written a lot of books and produced art in that space. So what he's saying is AI is producing things that still connect to our human creativity because it's learning from our own art. So we are still having a reaction to human creativity, but through a new filter. So even though you might feel cheated when you realize something was made by AI, you're responding to something that ultimately had its source in human. So he's taking that argument from the point of the data set. So the data set is mainly human art. All of the images we're using mainly have been created by humans or have human influence. So he's saying that we're using an algorithm to produce art, produce new visuals, produce visual experiences. So the data set is a human data set. Therefore, the output is also a human output. He's saying that AI is a tool. that we're using to create more art and to create more interesting visual experiences? Isn't it fundamentally human? How is it different from using a brush? How is it different from using all the other tools out there for art? How is AI different? So here are some local artists that worked with AI. This is my dear friend and a PSC alumni, Hala Saleh. She participated alongside me in the AI Artathon and created this beautiful artwork and reached the final top 10 artworks out of 170 teams. It's called Ultimate Pattern. She created it with her team, Amani Medini and Tarabilsi. You can find their social media accounts here. And she kind of has a brief on her account about the artwork. But she used StyleGAN to produce this artwork. It's the second out of a series of 3. Here's another one from the artist Nasser Shmemri. Nasser Shmemri is an electronic music artist based in Jeddah, but he has had experiments in working with AI, mainly StyleGAN. So he uses StyleGAN image synthesis and a data set of 1,100 images of al-balad to produce this artwork. Also a part of a series that has been exhibited at Minsk Art Institute. So yeah, and here's his social media account. And this is my own artwork. I have my own experiments and kind of do research on the side on how I can take this further, but this is one of the things I've done. I used StyleGAN image synthesis, and I used my friend Nira's artwork on Old Diriyah. So thank you. That has been it. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them. Otherwise, here are my social media accounts to better reach me.
Thank you so much, Sarah Albays, for the amazing presentation. We would open the floor to the audience. If they have any question, you are free to ask now. I see many people are asking about the recorded session. The recorded session will be sent to you by emails in the email that you provided in the attendance sheet. So I would appreciate if you provide a valid email or an email that you use frequently. So we would send you the attendance certificate as well as the recorded session. Any question for Sarah Albays?
I can see two people actually asking. Someone has to make and they someone is asking if AI can make music. Yes, if you have the proper data set for it, yes. But what people fail to see is that you can't, the whole process needs human influence. So it's a tool, it's not really another agent making something alone. The data set is collected and kind of provided by you. And depending on the algorithm you'll use, you'll get different results. So if you kind of don't know how to use it, then you're really not creating anything.
Can please resend the attendance sheet?
Sarah, where we can find out more about getting started?
You can look it up on, I mainly kind of found it through Artathon when I was participating in Artathon. It's kind of how I got my start. But if you type AI and art, depending on the type of art you want to create, so whether dealing with images, dealing with text, dealing with audio, you can look it up and kind of find proper resources for that. And then you can get started from there. But I mainly recommend to build a good data science skill set, and then you can experiment freely. Once you're more confident with the tools, you can start experimenting there. So there's another question from Noah. What has been the most challenging part from your experience with AI and art? Mainly navigating the tools, and depending on the artwork is collecting the proper data set. So I've been doing this for around a year. And I think, yeah, I can confidently say that not knowing how to navigate the tools in the beginning has been my main obstacle. Didn't know what to use, didn't know how to use it, and the failures I faced seemed so big and challenging and scary that it hindered me from making the progress I wanted to make. But now, having given it a year, I think I am working my way to a more confidence with the skill set and more interesting experimentation, and also hopefully research. A question by Abdurrahman. What do you think of those who say AI art isn't art, it's just random? Nothing of value was intended by the creator. So like I mentioned before, what people fail to see with AI and art is that it still needs human influence. It's mainly meant by human. The data set is collected by a human, and then knowing, like I said, with my challenges that I faced, trying to create art with algorithms, navigating the tools was the most challenging part. But you can underline tools twice, because navigating the tools, I was looking for a tool to illustrate the narrative, tell my story, all that through my work. So when someone says that it isn't art, that's a whole philosophical question in and of itself. You can base that argue. You can say that about a lot of other mediums. And the main thing that has people apprehensive about AI's inclusion in art is the fact that AI is meant to simulate human behavior, and with the whole dystopian vision of AI taking over the world and taking our jobs and taking everything. So now it's also taking our voices, the way we create. It seems so absurd. But as Marcus du Sautoy mentioned, the British mathematician who has had countless papers and books on AI and art, that we should start including AI in the narrative of creativity, and mainly computational creativity, because once we claim that narrative and once we start being more aware about its influence, we can know how to create it and how to better tell our stories through art. Since learning engineering, medicine, or other disciplines can help us sustain life. But the reason why we live is to tell our story and kind of to see the world become a prettier place. So I think using the tools available and including art in the technological advancement and empowering it with AI is probably the way to go here. So yeah, to answer your question, that's one opinion on the table. But I think otherwise, since I think of it as a tool. What's a subdomain you want to explore further in the field? What's next for you in this context? So I'm looking into research. I am, as part of my creative practice, I am looking into different philosophies, you would say, about illustrating the way we see the world and reclaiming our narratives. So I am kind of navigating the tools now to properly look into those philosophies and help. I would say the main thing is to reclaim and preserve parts of our culture. So as for the technical side of it, is what tools I find that better support the philosophies. But in a general sense, I would say research is the next steps for me to better support the arts and culture field, which is the thing I want to support with my skill set and with everything I'm building kind of now. Another question, how does that differ, say, from an image processing app like Photoshop or GIMP? It's just a different way of dealing with images. So Photoshop is fully it's just you editing the image without the autonomous agent part of it all. It's a different tool. So I would say it's kind of a hassle to edit an image using an algorithm, since you have like readily available tools like Photoshop and whatnot. But creatively, I would say it's just another way to deal with images. So yeah, I think there's no comparison here as much as there is just difference. It's just a different way to do things. Do you expect a high demand for AI in the future? Yes, I don't know about the computational creativity part. It's kind of a thing I just like doing regardless. I am studying to become a data scientist regardless if computational creativity for me picks up or not. That's something I'm passionate about and I will continue doing regardless if I get paid for it or not. But I am studying to become a data scientist. I want to influence AI. I want to influence kind of society with my skills in AI and data science and all that. So I do expect a high demand for AI. Actually, it has been proven to be so that we need more people that are experts in data science, data analysis, AI, different parts of it. So yeah, there is actually a high demand for AI. But if you're asking about the creative part of it, I don't actually know. There's always a demand for artists, I would say. If you have a story to tell, if you feel like there is something you want to create, I guess go create it. You don't have to use the newer tools and whatnot. You just find the proper tools to tell your story.
Thank you so much, Sarah Albayt, for the amazing presentation. Do you have other questions, or we will conclude the session now?
There was a question. When creating art with AI, do you have any control over that? Do you have any control over the process? Is it just feeding data and getting an output, or can you edit certain elements as you go? In a general sense, you're working with an algorithm. So an algorithm is input, bunch of stuff happens, output. But if you want to be specific, there are certain things you can change. So let's say with a simple neural style transfer algorithm, you can play with the weights of the content and style image, so you can get different results. So there are parts of the process you can influence, since in the end you're using an algorithm, and to a degree, most of the code is available to you, so you can edit what you want. And also when you get the output, you can just edit the output using other tools, whether that's AI or otherwise. So I would say, yeah, the whole process is manned by you, the artist. And depending on what you use and what algorithms you're using, there are different degrees of human influence you have in that.
Okay, so we will conclude the session now. Thank you so much for your attendance. Thank you, Sarah, for the amazing presentation. Mashallah, very informative and very interesting. Thank you so much. We will contact all of you, inshallah, after the session in the next few days. We will send you the recording and the certificate of attendance. Thank you so much and have a nice day.